Hey Casey, it's Tim again, and this is Tim doing the Executive Pastor's Report for September. And again, this is just an opportunity for us to bring you kind of behind the scenes of what's happening here, whether it's in ministries or finances or strategic direction. There's a lot happening here at KC that you may not know about. And so this is an opportunity for us to hopefully bridge that gap a little bit, bring you behind the curtain, show you what's going on, and be able to kind of, bridge that gap. So, to start that all off, just a couple highlights from this month. We had kickoff, always so amazing and great to be able to kick off the ministry season with games. We have bouncy castles here. I even went through the obstacle course and I totally crushed Dave Reed, so I will own that one, and I'll take that one home. But it was just good to be able to celebrate together, to laugh, and to have hot dogs that were on the grill. Men's ministry stepped up. It was so good. We had a worship service, amazing time in the service. So it's these kind of places where we get to celebrate and do community together and do life together. So important. And as we get going into ministry seasons of Rooted and Genesis and all the other activities that are happening, it was just a great time to kind of kickstart that off. Hence we say kickoff weekend. So that was this weekend. We also had the ministry fair, and that kind of followed up right after we did the kickoff. And really, the goal of that was to kind of, again, bridge the gap a little bit. There are so many ministries and departments here at the church, so many things happening. It's hard to kind of keep track of everything that's going on. So we had all the ministries in the foyer, and we had everybody manning those booths, and just to try and bring people in to not only, hey, this is what's happening here in these ministries, but here's also a way you can get involved. In church, we are a church that is on mission. We are a church that are to know, that here and exists to know Jesus and make him known. And so we just want to, that was kind of a kickoff to that. It was a start to kind of all the ministries that are happening here. But it's also an invitation to bring you in to the ministry work of Jesus. There's so many things happening. And I know Diane put out a video a couple weeks ago, just all the ministry opportunities. I just want to bring those to the forefront again, because church, we're not here to warm the pews. We're not here to sit and be comfortable. We are here to make Jesus known and to go into the uncomfortable places and to reach out and to love and to care for the orphan and the widow. And so I just wanted to bring some of those pathways up to the forefront again. We had the first pathway that we talked about, which was needing 15 kids for volunteers at KAC Kids. Kids are so important, and for you to be able to step up and to be able to partner with us as we teach and mentor and train our children is so important. So kids ministries, Sunday morning services, they need 15 people. Pathway number 2 was Arthur Hatton Elementary School, just to be able to be the ability to be able to sit and read with kids and to love on them and to be with them and be a representation of Jesus is so effective in our community. Pathway number 3, Overlander Residential Care for Sunday Services. What does it look like to reach out to the elderly and to those in our community who so much appreciate us coming out there and being with them and celebrating Jesus and witnessing to them and being part of their lives? And number 4 is the Hopewell Clinic. Such an important part of our community as we fight the battle that we are in our culture today around the topic of pregnancy. And so another great opportunity. So church, we exist to know Jesus and to make him known. And so we just want to invite you into what it means to partner in these volunteers. And there's so many other volunteer opportunities as well. So if you have any interest to be able to link arms with us and to partner with us, reach out on the website to see how you can partner with us in that way. Okay. The other thing that we had this weekend was Strategy Weekend. And this was 60 of our key leaders of our church coming together for 2 days of strategic planning. We had Brent Doleful come out and facilitate that process. And it really was a moment where we got to reflect back to the history of our church. Where has KC started? What's its legacy, its pedigree? Where did it start? Back in the 40s, who were there? And what did they remember God doing back then? And what's God doing in us today? And then finally, what does it look like down the road? What does it look like 5 years when we want to look back and say, what would you want to celebrate that God has done? And so those are kind of the 3 spaces that we lived in for 2 days. and to focus kind of on the initiative of church and to figure out what ministries line up with that. Figure out where we want to go in 5 years, and then start lining everything up into that and saying some of those ministries we need to level them up, and some of those ministries don't fit, but let's make sure we as a church are going in a unified direction in a certain vision. And so it was just a great weekend to bring those leaders together and to dream and to laugh together. And so over the next little while, what we're going to be doing is to kind of solidify and crystallize what that strategic direction is. And so the board and the staff and the lead team, we're all going to be working together to really give some concrete direction to where we want to go in the next 5 years. It's often where we dream and we get excited and we want to move ahead and charge the hill and then really not do anything with it. And that's not what we want to do. We really want to say we're going there, and these are the next steps that we're going to take to get us there. It may have to change along the way, but that's where we're going to go as a church. And so expect that from us as we solidify and crystallize that over the next few months. Pray for us as we discern and as we discern and speak through and collaborate together to figure out what is he calling KAC to do in the next season of our church. So pray for that. Please pray for that. That followed. That follows to my next exciting news. At the AGM, we had the opportunity to introduce the capital campaign that we want to start and kick off. And this capital campaign is very much linked with this strategic direction. But there's a little bit of a nuance there because there's some things in our church that we need to do right away, and there's some things that we are going to be doing down the road when it comes to a capital campaign. And so I wanted to bring the whole thing. It might as well bring everything to you and be open and transparent in what we're doing. And so we've broken this up into really 2 phases, and phase 1 and phase 2. And when we're talking about phase 1 of a capital campaign, these are the urgent needs of our building. We live and work and breathe in this building. This is where ministry happens in part, but we also need to be good stewards of it and take care of it. And so these projects that we're looking at here, these are of a critical nature that we need to get going on right away. And so we want to be good stewards of this facility, but there's some love. There's a little bit of a fix here and a fix there that needs to happen, and it needs to happen sooner than later. So one of the things is the parking lot. Man, we have talked about this parking lot. You know, people have asked me, why aren't there lines on the parking lot? It's so chaotic parking. The reason we have to put lines on there because we actually need to resurface that parking lot. Some of you might be suffering from a bit of vertigo when you're walking on it because it's so bumpy and it's so twisty and it's a health hazard, it's a risk. So we need to deal with the parking lot right away. We have the fireside room that is actually sinking, believe it or not. It's sunk a couple inches, and we need to address that right away. The HVAC unit in this building needs to be looked at, and we've been talking about that for 5, 6, 7, 8 years already, how that's an urgent need. Branding, this is more affiliated with signage as well as wayfinding in the building. After we've done the branding rebrand, and then finally it's the foyer facelift. This again is a space. You know, we've done the work in the sanctuary here, but out there we need to create a space where community can happen. And so these things are things that we need to get going on right away. And we anticipate a cost anywhere from $350,000 to $500,000 for this component of it. And we know these things. These things are we have a good idea of what the cost will be on these things. The second phase of this will be the strategic upgrades. And this is the part where we're thinking down the road and we're going, you know, we think we're going this direction, we think we're going this way, but we also want to be very, very careful that we're not going in a separate direction than the strategic direction. So this very much ties into, as we solidify the strategic direction over the next 3 to 4 months and crystallize that, these things will also start to get crystallized. But these are some of the things that we have been talking about as we're thinking about ministry. And so this will enable us to do future ministries the way that we see it today. And so, you know, you have the broadcast upgrade. As we're thinking about reaching out, using the medium of internet, what does it mean to be able to broadcast live, and how has that changed the way that we do church? The PA upgrade, that's also been a point of discussion for quite some time. The infrastructure for the PA, the front foyer Rivers Cafe upgrade. There's a potential for a gym modification. Again, space is at a premium. How do we best utilize that space? Office space modification, KC facility upgrade, again, taking care of just the assets that we have, and then finally, exterior building upgrade. And so you're going, well, how much is that going to cost? Like, what's the cost affiliated to that? And the honest answer is a lot more than the first slide. It's going to cost a lot more than the first slide. We don't know the number yet. And so as we're dreaming about this, that's going to be the next part of this process, is be able to present a very well thought out, a well-placed document that will kind of outline the cost affiliated to what we're looking to do as it marries up to our strategic plan. Some of you are saying, well, what if I want to help now? I mean, we talked about some of these critical, urgent needs right away. There's already those who have already stepped up and said, you know what? We just want to support and help and steward the building well. And so we've had people already donate to this very piece. And so we already have that set up. And if you want to be a part of that and link arms with us in that way, we already have the pieces in place to do that, so we can get going on some of these things right away. So as money comes in, we want to address it. Again, when we're looking at the parking lot and the fireside room, these are two pieces that are extremely critical as we think about stewarding this place well. That being said, we already have a good amount. We already $16,000 into that capital, into that budget. Yeah, so I'll just start. So what if you want to help now? There's already those individuals who've already stepped up, and we already have about $65,000, $66,000 in the account set apart for this already. So thank you, church, and thank you for those who've decided to link up arms with us in this endeavor. And if you want to contribute and you want to come alongside us, reach out to finance@kac.ca for more information. Thank you for coming alongside us with this. As we've been talking about every month, I wanted to take the opportunity to bring you alongside to some of the staff that work here and what they do. And so we're going to break into the interview with Deb and have her tell her story on what she does here at KAC. Hi, KAC. This is Tim here. And as we've been doing for the last few months here, it's just the opportunity to kind of get behind the scenes and get to know our staff and who they are and what they're about and kind of what fills their day. And so today, Debborah Interview, or as she's known in the office as just Deb, is here with us. And just what a delight. What a delight. I can honestly tell you, when I first met you, I didn't understand the depth and the history you have at KAC here. So maybe that's a great place to start. How long have you been going to KAC for and being involved in the church here?
Thanks for asking, Tim. I have attended Kamloops Alliance since the fall of 1989, when I moved back to Kamloops from my school years in Calgary.
Okay.
And so that's when I started attending, and have been regular attender ever since. My husband Mario and I were married here in 1990. And raised our children here. Yeah,
that's cool.
We were married right here, right on this stage. It didn't look like this, but
fair enough.
Yeah, we were married here, and raised our family here. Very involved in many different things. Children's ministry early on. Mario was very involved with Boys Club, as it was called at that time, even though we didn't have boys.
Yeah.
He loved it and was for many, many years involved with that. And then men's ministry after that.
Okay.
And then on the board, I was involved in the choir as well. And women's ministries, lots of stuff.
So you've been here for a long time. There's a long legacy here of your involvement. I we didn't prep this question, but the question I have is kind of what do you see as the common thread that you've seen over the history, all the way back from 1989 to when you first started coming here to 2023 where we are today, 2022. What is the common thread that you think defines KAC that you've seen over that time period?
Common thread. KAC has always been very welcoming. From the first day, literally, that I walked in the door, it wasn't 3 minutes before Henry Waldy introduced himself to me, right, and asked if he could help me find a seat, and he did. And the lovely person that he sat me beside invited me to lunch that day.
Really?
Yeah, my very first day. I was not able to go for lunch, unfortunately, but it was just right from day one, I was like, yeah, this feels like family to me. And so that's definitely a thread and a legacy of KAC, is that when you come to KAC, you're family.
We just did a kind of a history look back at KAC, and I remember talking to some of those who like the Conrads who've been here since really the dawn of KAC, and that was the common theme they even said back then, was that it was family oriented. It was always a welcoming family. And so for you to be able to speak to that now, and knowing that really was the genesis of KAC was this family oriented feeling, I think speaks to a unique portion of KAC. So that's cool that you would see that. How you're now on staff now. How long have you been on staff? What kind of roles have you done on staff? I know that you've been in myriad of places on staff. Tell us about your role on staff.
Yeah. So I was trying to remember, I think it was probably mid 2017 that I was invited to join the staff on a part-time basis, mostly to support reception.
Okay.
And so I was happy to do that. I had been volunteering a little bit for Sharon here and there when she needed days off or when she just needed phone coverage, and slowly but surely she would give me tasks to do. And I just loved welcoming people to KAC and learning who does what and how to run the phone and not cut people off. And and they still let me come back, even though most of the time it was somebody like Doug Letty, and he just laughed. And I said, if I cut you off, phone me back. And he did. So from there, so I did that for probably maybe almost 2 years, or maybe a little more, maybe 2.5 years. And then after Chris Thronis was hired as our lead pastor, we kind of reorganized everything, a new organizational chart, and then I was, I don't know if it's promoted or anyway, I was asked to support next generation or children's ministry and youth and young adults administratively. So I was happy to step into that role.
And what does that entail? Like, I think as you and I were kind of debriefing before we got started here, talk to us about the administrative piece. And I think that often gets overlooked. I think it's often it doesn't really get the limelight, certainly because it's in the behind the scenes. And yet it's so important to a church, especially this size, when we have so many moving parts. So help us understand what it is that you do and kind of what fills your day in terms of the role that you have.
Okay. Well, both children's ministry and youth and young adults are two of the heaviest or most weighted ministries that require many, many volunteers.
Yes.
So that is one of my main tasks, is to keep track of those volunteers, make sure we have all the information that we need of them, their applications, of course, but then they also need to go through safety training because we're dealing with children and youth, so they need clearances and training. So, and there's a lot of back and forth and paperwork involved with that as well. So that's how I support with volunteers. And then as far as the two pastors, Pastor Carlene and Pastor Cody, I support them with fielding phone calls, returning phone calls, calendaring, setting up appointments, taking notes in meetings, reminding them of things. We all remind each other.
As with every good pastor.
We're a great team, and we help each other remember all the little things that go together. And also youth and young adults, as well as kids ministry, also host many events, not just weekend things. There's lots of events that go on throughout the years. And so I do help with organizing those as well, and reaching out to if there's supplies that we need. Because
youth and kids take a lot of supplies. I mean,
Yeah.
spiritual formation, if you're doing a class, here's a book.
Yeah.
And with kids and youth, it's like, it's not just the book, it's all the candy, and it's a shopping cart with the horse beside it as they're doing a javelin thing or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like it's heavy, it's intensive
Yeah.
in terms of preparation for those things.
Yeah, and it's very, very creative, which I love.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
have a background in creativity, or that uses creativity
Yeah.
and design, so I enjoy that. part of it too.
What is the one thing that you love about your job? Like, what is the one thing that you're going, this is a gift I get to do, or being here on staff, or whatever? What is it that just delights your heart?
There's so many things that I love to do. One of the things that actually happens in the background that not very many people know about, except for the kids. This is children's ministry, not necessarily for youth. But I get to recognize the kids on their birthdays with a card and a little gift in the mail. And that was one of the first things I started doing for Carlene, even when I was still doing reception. She passed that on to me. And it was just such a joy to do that. I have at times been able to find a volunteer that also loves to share that job with me. But right now it's back in my court. And that's one of just the little things that seems not so important, but it really is for them to get a card in the mail that's addressed to them with a special greeting and little prize inside.
What's the one thing that you'd want our church family to know about you, about this role, about something that is worthwhile? What is it you'd like us to know?
Volunteering. I'm also a volunteer in children's ministry, and that is such a joy. To greet those little ones and help them find comfort when they're not used to being away from their families or their parents, and just to help them learn, show them the love of Jesus, and to see them respond. And it's such a valuable asset, really, to be a volunteer. And thank you to many of those who have heard our call for volunteers. We have received new people coming back to volunteer again. And so I would just encourage you, if you even just have one Sunday in 3 months that you could share with children's ministry, we love that. And we love student ministry leaders as well. The only difference between a student ministry team member and an adult is that the student ministry, because of their age, they don't account for the required number of adult we need in the room.
Ratios,
the ratios, thank you.
Which is part of the plan to protect,
it's
right?
part of the plan to protect.
And it's a graduating scale, because the younger the child, the more the volunteers that you need.
That's exactly right.
And so as you get older, you need less volunteers per child, which is a little bit easier to navigate that.
And that's also why, unfortunately, from time to time, rooms are either full or closed because we only have volunteers for a certain ratio to keep everybody safe. And again, that's why even if you can only volunteer, not that regularly, there are times when people get sick or they can't be there last minute. So even being on a sub list is very, very valuable to our ministry.
How can we as a church pray for you? I know that you've. I'm sure you guys got some plans and you got some dreams, but how can we as a church pray for you?
That Jesus will just continue to lead us. I mean, we've been involved, as I said, in many things, from children's to youth to board membership, we're just excited for where Jesus is taking KAC. And how we can continue to be a part of that. Yeah.
You're such a gift. Thank you for on staff, yes. But I'm, as we've often said, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And families like yours, the Telrickers who've been here and have served so faithfully for so long. Thank you for being part of this church, and thank you for serving so well.
It's our pleasure.
We are so grateful for that, and we just we pray for you guys, and we love you guys. So thanks, Deb, for everything you do, and we're just excited to see where it leads you.
Me too.
Okay, see you.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, Casey. I just have to say, Deb is such a gift and such a pleasure to be able to work alongside her. She's got such a infectious laugh, but also a love for Jesus, and such a gift to be able to work alongside her and her faithfulness in serving for so long at this church, but also on staff. So thank you, Deb, for that. Awesome. Okay. Great. Numbers, budgets, spreadsheets. I'm all in. Let's jump in. Okay. So for the budget for total September, for the month of September, was the total revenue was $144,000. We only actualized $141,000, so it's a little bit less than what we were expecting. Total expenses, though, were $153,000 budgeted, but actualized $159,000. And you're going to go, wait a minute, why did we spend more when we got less? How did that work? We expected to be a $9,000 loss, but we actually had an $18,000 loss. There's a couple decisions we had to make. For example, the drum shield, we thought that was important to do that right away. And so we've actually front-loaded that cost right now. So we should see that taper off over the month. And also there's some unexpected costs around projector repairs that came up as well. So moving forward, we will continue to watch it and monitor and make sure that we're stewarding these resources well. So where does that put us for the end, for current year to date? Well, total revenue of year to date is $448,000. And then there's actualized of $416,000. Total expenses were $465,000 and $441,000 was actualized. So we were expecting to be at $18,000 or $16,000 debt, but truly we're at $24,000 debt. Church, we are doing ministry day in and day out. And we just want to encourage you to link arms with us in this endeavor. It costs money to be able to run the programs and the ministries and the building, to be able to do the work that we're doing. As we're having these events like kickoff and the strategy meeting, as we're pulling things together, as we're looking at kids ministries and we're looking at youth ministries and all the things that Deb talked about, these things take money, and we're trying to resource them or trying to steward them as well as possible. And we just want to invite you into that journey as we make Jesus known. I say it so often because it's so simple and yet so true. We exist to know Jesus and to make him known. It's why that's our mission statement. But to do that, we need your help and we need your support. So part of the discipleship process is be able to engage in this. And so if you have any questions or concerns, or you just like to have more information, I invite you to reach out to myself, to Jen at finance at Kamloops or KAC.ca. If you have any questions or you'd like to have more information on what we do and how we do it. And if you have the ability to give online, that's also available to you, as well, as we're trying to point people to the online direction to be able to even save money on that way when we're trying to mitigate Moneris costs, for example. So church, we're doing what we can to steward the resources well, but we want to be our church on mission. And so I would just encourage you to join with us as we make Jesus known. Church, thank you for partnering. Thank you for your trust. And we look forward to this next season as we try and unpack what it is God's calling us to do to crystallize the vision and direction over this next season. So pray for us as we look forward to that.